in 3, in 2, and in 1. And welcome everybody to FrameCast 68. We are one away from the famous 69 episode. I don't know what we're going to be doing on that 69 episode, but I figured we'd get a warm-up with the guy I talked about tentacle porn, about our very great love for this amazing thing. Xandy, how's it going?
I still genuinely like that specific thing that we discussed before.
Yeah.
I'm ready to prepare for, I almost said DevStream 69. Sure, DevStream 69. That's great. That already happened for FrameCast 69.
Yeah.
FrameCast 68. Welcome aboard.
I think that last time I think it came out of that we were talking about Hydrate or something. Last FrameCast we had a lot of Warframe stuff to engage. Oh, I think it was the favorite Warframe. I think it was the favorite Warframe topic where we were talking about people ask you like the F question, the favorite question. What is your favorite Warframe? And you were like, well, I can't just that is such a question I can't answer because everyone may have different reasons for liking Warframes, and then we came up with liking Hydrate for that thing. Anyway, today we have a wildly varied topics FrameCast. This is also the very first FrameCast that we have Xandy on in this year. You might see it more often, you might not. We'll see how this goes. But let's take a look at what we have on the schedule for today. First of all, we're of course going to go over to what games we've played. We have some comments to come back to from Ephime, who is unfortunately not able to join us because internet is out. And then we have a bunch of topics. We have Genshin Impact freeing up more activities with resin restrictions. I'm pretty excited about that. I hope you are too, because I know that you've been playing Genshin quite a bit as well.
I'm not excited about it, but we'll talk about why when we get there.
Oh, that is curious. That is curious because I saw. I see your notes.
It's not what you think, but yeah. It's the article is kind of a lie, but we'll get back to it when we get to it. Yeah.
Okay, then we have the EU fines PC publishers 7.8 million euros for location-restricted content.
Yeah, this was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Including Steam is the big one.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one to get to. Then we also have Nvidia launching brand new GPUs. If you wanted to get a graphics card, you can get your hands on the brand new GTX 2060 and 2060 Ti. Now you might be wondering, wait, are those not last gen? Yeah, they are. They're launching them again. We also have CD Projekt Red's co-founder Marvin Iwinski. I hope that I pronounced it correctly. He apologizes in a YouTube video for the Cyberpunk 2077 launch. We have EA losing exclusivity to the Star Wars 3D games to Ubisoft. And then we also have, coming back to the topic from last week, WhatsApp is postponing its privacy update that will share your data with Facebook. So that is what we have for today. We have a bit of a quick FrameCast to go through. I think we have about an hour and some change. So yeah, let's get straight into what have you played recently? What have you played last week, last month? Sandy, what have you been up to?
What games have I played recently? Well, Warframe and Hades and Genshin Impact, but that's been true. I guess last month counts Noita. I don't think that was too long ago. Noita is a little bit of a tricky game to define, but it's mostly it's usually a roguelike, let's say it that way, where you spawn in and you travel underground through the mines to deeper and deeper procedurally generated levels. And the big thing is that you get wands along the way, and the wands are basically guns that you program with spells that you slot into the wands. And when you fire the wand, it's like an auto gun, but it fires the spells in the wand in sequence. And so you can make various types of build-crafted, procedurally available firearms but they're wands to get through the mines. It's fun. It has a lot of. It's one of those games that doesn't really give a crap whether you actually figure out where all the content is, and so you could easily play it for 50 hours and not really be getting it. There's sort of a couple of big secrets in the game, very big secrets. It's one of those games where it kind of becomes something completely different eventually, and it's not really a roguelike anymore. And I won't talk about it more just in case people decide to play this, but it was cool. It's fun. If you like roguelikes, then the wand building thing sounds interesting, and you're interested in games that have big secrets in them, that are reasonable to find, I think you will like this game. I don't think I played a whole lot else in the past month. I'm planning to play a lot of other stuff. I played this little mint game. It
Ooh,
comes in a little mint tin. It's
Mintworks.
it's called Mintworks. It's a really simple little game. It's just cute. I just thought the packaging was cute. I don't really have anything to say about it. It's a kind of resource management game. Uh,
How do you
it's
play it?
adorable. Um, you just get a few mints at the beginning of your turn, and then you have. I'm not going to show you everything, but the basic board includes cards like these that
Ooh.
have a couple of spots where you can invest a mint, like these spots
Mm-hmm.
here, and then they give you some effects. So one of them is you get more mints. So if you need more, they kind of represent your workers or your money. And so if you need to invest and get more, you can do that. But you can only place mints in a spot one time. So eventually, once all the players have used up all the stuff, you have to go to the next turn and refresh. And you can build plans, you can build buildings. Sometimes they give you income, sometimes they give you points, which help you win. It's just a very, very simple resource management game. It kind of reminds me a little bit of games like StarCraft, where you'll go
Mm-hmm.
gather resources and then build things, for war, but not in this game. It's kind of like a very simple version of that type of gameplay loop. But simple does not have to mean bad, and I think they did a good job creating some nice variety with a really simple setup and very fast game time. It's just cute. Also, it's a mint tin. What do you want from me?
Well, can you actually do they actually supply with mints you can eat, or are they artificial
Okay,
mints?
so I got this as a holiday gift for Anna, my girlfriend Anna, and she hated it because there are no edible mints.
No.
They include mint tokens, which are non-perishable, not edible, and she said this is a worthless gift. How dare you get a game in a mint tin that has no mints? I should have bought mints and put them in the mint tin. It's my mistake. I accept all the responsibility. It
have
was
you
my
have you
fault.
made up by it so far to just get a tin of mints to
Her
play with it?
birthday is in early February, and I am going to get her mints. Yes.
Okay, no one, no, nobody share this stream. Okay,
Nobody
nobody share this
tell
podcast. No one has to
Anna.
know. This is
Yeah.
our secret.
Exactly. If anybody has any suggestion for really good mints, I'm not joking. Please send them my way because these have to be like the best. I got to make up for
Hmm.
lost mints. So these need to be like next level mints. So if you have a good recommendation for some
Hmm.
next level mints, I'm talking, these cannot just be minty mints. You got to give me something special, okay?
Yeah.
Especially if they're pink. She really likes pink.
Ooh.
Pink, that would be good. Yeah,
That.
and in the mint tin, the mints are white,
Hmm.
mints, but then they have a couple of red ones just in case, to represent five. So if you get like 15 mints, you don't have to have like a million mints, just to save space. But of course, she was upset because they're white and red mints, but there are no pink mints. What are you doing? So
Yeah.
ridiculous. Trash tier game. Don't recommend. No pink mints, no edible mints. Gameplay is fantastic, but no pink mints. 1 out of 10. Would not
Unless you buy
recommend.
the DLC. Unless you buy the
Right. If you
DLC,
buy the
which you can get.
DLC, the DLC is
Which
just mints.
Yeah, which you can get in pretty much any convenience store. However, you gotta find the right DLC, and that's the quest we're on right now. So if you know what the perfect mint is, if you have mints where you're like, this is top tier quality mint, let us know. Trigon asks, what if you eat the mints while playing and you're out of mints to play?
Well, of course, that's why they didn't include them. But the next level decision would be to just have an insane number of mints. I mean, what they should have done is they ship you thousands of mints in a box, and then it's just also you don't exactly consume mints quickly. I mean, how much you're scarfing down mints?
I used to. So
Okay.
so so like I would when I was a kid I would always get like a mint with me when I went to school, and I always really liked mints to like take after I was done like eating or drinking or something. I always like to take a mint because it's so refreshing, and like it's kind of like finishing up like the meal you were consuming. So like I would take them to school and I would have like a special keychain in which I would keep my mint. I loved it, and then I would come home and it'd be like, oh man, I like it so much. Let me eat another one. Let me eat another one, and uh, I think my limit was like 3 or 4 in a row, and then I would get like mint pain from like eating too much mint. So like I wouldn't really go past that, but I would try and eat them consecutively because I really really like them. But there would be like this mint pain where it's like you would just feel it like especially like around here, right? Like you're where you were like taking them in. It's like I can kind of recall that. I can kind of still recall like the mint pain. I don't know if you've ever tried to eat many mints at the same time.
Well, okay. No, yes and no. I mean, if you eat too much peppermint oil, you will definitely get some minor heartburn. So I'm pretty sure that's what you were
Mm-hmm.
experiencing. But a little bit of peppermint oil is known to aid digestion for a lot of people. So I'm not surprised you and I also enjoy that. I really like if you enjoy eating a bunch of mint, but you don't want that feeling, then mint tea, I find, mostly avoids that problem, especially fresh mint tea. If you've had mint tea
Whoa.
before, but you haven't had it's like was like dried leaves, you want to go to
Yeah.
the vegetable part of the grocery store and buy one of those packets of fresh mint leaves and
Mm-hmm.
steep those as tea. That's a totally different experience and it's really good.
Yeah. No, that is. Oh my god. Like having the tea with like the leaves in it. Like that is the best. That is the absolute fucking best. Oh man, I love that. I really, really do.
What
Freewilliam
have you?
says,
Oh,
Scribbles,
go ahead.
stop eating mints when it starts to hurt. You probably should.
Stop eating mints when your bank account bottoms out.
Yeah.
So let me write that down. Write that down.
Write that down. Oh my god. Um, um, but yeah,
But anyway,
yeah.
that's what I've been playing. What have you
Mhm.
been playing, Michelle? I'm sure it cannot possibly match up to my Mint game or Noita, but
Well, well, surprisingly, I actually also got this box. No, actually, I don't. I've actually been doing a
it's
lot of.
funny you said that because actually,
It's funny you said that because actually I was walking down the store and I found this box of mints, which actually turned out to be a game. But I mean, you know that's a lie because I won't be walking down the store. We actually just got like a more severe lockdown. We're getting curfews and stuff. So
oh,
yeah, it's bad. Anyway, that aside, what have I been playing? I've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk. Like since January, I started to like I was like, let me wait a month to like see if it fixes it up on console, and now I'm trying to play it. Problem is, I'm playing it like as a story on stream, so I can't do any story content offline, like outside of the stream. So I'm just doing all the all random side activities that have no meaning for the rest of the story. So I'm just like super leveled, and like yesterday, like I think yesterday or 2 days ago, I did a stream where I'm playing the story mission. It's just like there's a gunfight. It's supposed to be like a boss battle. I just woke up and I'm just like fist fighting my way through because I've been playing so much side content.
RPGs.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Oh dude. Aside from that, I have been last week I played a Warframe event that was around with like the Orphixes, the Orphix Venom. I don't know how you liked it, but I thought it was quite enjoyable. I really really enjoyed for like the visuals of walking around with Necramechs and like the regular mission maps like you're just like these giant massive things and you're seeing like your entire squad be these giant massive Necramech machines like gunning down like all these corpus. It just felt like an entirely different game to me. And then I also went ahead and like played a lot with my Tenno because I didn't really have a good Necramech at all, so I would just go with my Tenno and just like Tenno blast all the sentience to bits. And I also pretty enjoyed like Tennoing around for an event, so I quite enjoyed that. But how do you feel about the Warframe Orphix Venom thing?
I mean, I really like the idea of Necramechs in normal missions. I do sort of think Necramechs are one of those features where it sort of begs the question, why would you use these except that you just like them?
Mm-hmm.
Especially the melee one, although the heavy attack does fire that ranged projectile. So personally, I like Orphix Venom largely because it implies that Necramechs will be available in all normal missions, and they just started it off here as essentially a live bug test. And I don't mean that in a sardonic or negative way. That's fine, but I don't know that I liked the specific mission that much. I felt it was not boring or terrible, but forgettable. I like the idea of Necramechs being available in normal missions all the time. That sounds fun. I feel like that bodes well for them maybe getting rebalanced a little bit so they feel a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more worthwhile to the cynics. But I enjoy Necramechs. I really like the Void Rig Necramech. Bone Widow looks really cool. I want them to be valuable. And then on a totally separate note, I also think it's great when Arcanes are available non-randomly. That's fantastic. I wish that that was always the case, but this
I'll
is also good.
I was so surprised by like the low cost for something like Arcane Energize. Like
Yeah, they
I
weren't
was
expensive.
blown away. Like, so normally for people that might not be familiar with Warframe, I think most of us are. But the thing is, you would have arcanes, which are like basically power ups, sort of thing, which you can apply. And like Arcane Energize is one which has been famous for being very very useful. And normally, like initially, in order to like get them, you had to do raids, and you could get them for eidolons, but like the drop rate on those were just like, you would have to do a lot for it. And now all of a sudden, like I come back, there is this event where you could get it for 800 cells or whatever the thing was called. Well, now you might be wondering, like, what does it mean 800 cells? Because if you only get like one cell per like half an hour, then that means nothing. Or if you get 1,000 cells per half an hour, that means nothing. But basically, normally people like Warframe would expect you to kind of get the Warframe sort of thing from Defend, and maybe get a couple more things from like just a casual player. And the Warframe, in order to get that, you had to get 1,500 for the blueprint and 1,000 for each part. So they were expecting the casual player to just kind of get like a couple thousand points, and points weren't all that hard to get by. And like the thing was 800, so basically you could do 2 missions, go up to like level, like go up to like 15 or something, wave 15 of the first stage, and which was like a half an hour work or something. Like if you would just like the easiest thing, and you just did a couple for a couple of hours, you could just get Arcane Energizes, and it was so good. And like all the arcanes you could just like get for insanely cheap prices. I was like, this is so awesome. Why is not everyone like super excited about this?
I don't entirely agree that I don't think it was that cheap, but I do think, yeah, like to give people an idea, if you were ready for the event, you have a decent Necramech already, you're comfortable playing the highest level difficulty, you could get an Arcane Energize probably once every half hour, which is pretty good. That's much better than how you would normally farm them. It's not that fast because you need to get 21 of them for the maximum effect, but you can still get most of the effect for 10 or 15, and that would take a while, but it was way more doable than it would be eidolons. It would be like you would do them for a year and you wouldn't have a full
Yeah.
arcane inheritance. So which I mean, that those are both bad in my opinion. I think it's bad enough that something fell off my desk. I don't think that either of those is really the rate at which you should let players acquire these things if you're going to need that many, but it was a lot better. I agree with that part. And a lot of the lower rank arcanes were really cheap. Like there were the common ones. There aren't that many good
200 or something.
yeah, like 200. So you could get a fully ranked one in like an hour or two, which is that's really good.
Yeah.
But okay, like 2 hours or so. But
Yeah.
it's still pretty good.
I mean, I compared to Eidolons or before that raids, and if I wanted to get it for doing a raid, or if I wanted to get it for like farming Eidolons, that would take me like years. I don't think I've even gotten that far. So compared to that, this was an insane increase in getting it, like insane increase in like time to spend, and just like being sure that you could get it, because you could spend that time, you're 100% sure you're going to get that arcane, whereas with Eidolons and with raids you would not know. So
Yeah, that's a big thing.
I thought it was good. Actually, how do you feel? Like, let's do that. This is the final topic of Warframe, and then let's get into like the questions. But how do you feel about like the acquisition of the Necramechs? Because personally, I've played a bit of Deimos, but when I kind of realized that Deimos was more or less again an open world, it kind of lost interest. Like I kind of lost interest, so I never really got around to building my own Necramech. So I've played around with the ones that were laying around, but they weren't all that good, which is why I switched to my 10.0. But how do you feel about like how easy or hard, or like the way to acquire Necramechs is, especially since you have to go to the world of Deimos now and you have to rank up a couple ranks? Like I look at it as like, well, I don't know if I want to do a third open world, but like it could also just be me with my preconceived notions of, I'm not really feeling like an open world, whereas in reality it's like actually quite reasonable to get.
No, I think that there are a lot of tricky aspects to the equation. So to make a complicated situation less complicated, the Necramechs are not really, there's not really a value proposition. They're just cool. They're not bad, but you're not really at an advantage because you have one. The Void Rig Necramech turret mode does do preposterously high damage in a very large area, but Warframe is a game that is built around you having a lot of mobility. Trading away that mobility for essentially infinite damage is a surprisingly bad trade most of the time. And I have, as somebody who uses their Necramech a lot in any mission they're able to, it's not really worth it per se. It's
Mm-hmm.
not bad, but it's not often actively productive. I think if you're doing a defense mission or something, like when they add Necramechs to normal missions, or if for some reason they don't, but I'm 90% sure they will, I will probably use my Void Rig Necramech mostly for defense missions and maybe survival. There could be some applications. I think hijack might be sort of interesting,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a very small number of missions.
Yeah.
Defection might be okay, but again, very small number of missions. Disruption is a mission type I think they'll be okay for. Interception, maybe it's fine if you get a good vantage point, but not really. Again, at their best, not too much better than the other options. I think the big thing is that because they require scintillant, the whole situation with scintillant. Scintillant is easier to get now, but it's still a pretty big ask, especially because Zaku, for example, also requires scintillant. It's not like you only need it for them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the good kit gun parts need scintillant. And so I don't know. I mean, I just think if you don't just think they're cool, there is absolutely no reason to get one. But if you think they are cool, it's not like they're terrible and you can't use them. You're just not really gaining much. And so I think given that cost, that's why I think it's complicated to say, oh, it's easy, it's hard. It takes some doing. I think that's the big thing is that you do have to play a lot of Deimos, you're right. I like Deimos a lot more than the other open worlds, personally. I really like being able to go underground. I like all the verticality. I like how the environment looks. I do enjoy the enemies.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little more variety. You have to do things to them to kill them a bit more. But I get why somebody would be bothered by that, and I would find it hard to believe that somebody would force themselves to go through that and then get a Necramech and think, oh, it was worth it.
Yeah.
It's not. But I'm hoping that because they're in normal missions, when they will be in normal missions now, I don't know that they will be, but to me, it's pretty obvious. When they're in normal missions, that will hopefully get them to a reasonable power level or niche in some way, rather than just forcing us to use them, which is maybe where some of my cynicism toward Orphix Venom was. But
Yeah.
but I agree that it feels cool to run around in missions with them. I just think to make them be a part of the game that feels good, you need to give us an incentive to use them that isn't we are required to use them. You have
Yeah.
to give us a reason to want to use them.
That is true. Like I did not do the third tier survival, or no, the third tier level, because for that level you really kind of required
Yeah.
a Necramech. The first thing you could do easily with with a Tenno, and if you had the choice between using your Tenno or using a Necramech on the ground, you just 100% go with your Tenno because it's just going to be better entirely. The second wave you could still do with your Tenno, but only if you had it like really good. And the third wave was this. The third thing was this: you had to have a Necramech. And I agree with you on several points. First of all, what you said is like you want people to want to have it instead of requiring them to have it, because then it becomes this weird thing where it's like, oh, I mean, now I got to use it. Kind of like the similar situation where with the Fortuna Spider, you had to use an arc gun, which I just really did not like, because when it came to the Eidolons, if you wanted to fight the Eidolon enemies in Warframe, you had to use your Tenno beam, which is something where you just press 5 and just like instantly shoot into your Tenno, and you can just start firing. And this arc gun, you first had to like craft and all that sort of stuff, and then once you had it, you would have to hit like your gear icon button, and you would have to hit it, and then you would have this slow animation of you equipping the thing, which just felt like long and tedious, and then you could shoot it, and was most of the time not really all that much better at the start than most of the weapons you already had, so it kind of felt like not very useful. Another thing which I very much agree on is that Deimos is by far, in my opinion, as well, the best open world there is. Like the verticality, like the tunnels, which you say, like I really like that open world. It's just that at the time that it came out, I was fatigued with open worldness, and I feel that a lot of people that I've spoken to had it as well. So when I found that, oh, this is just going to be the same thing again of grinding bounties, of doing these missions and all, like this place is interesting, but there's not really anything behind it that's really like motivating me to get to it. That said, if they do make Necramechs available in regular missions, I'll probably will go ahead and do it, because I mean then Necramechs become interesting, which also leads me to like the final question is, once they become missions, Necramechs, do you need one or more Necramechs to be released by Warframe, or could you just start doing Driftframe already with 2 Necramechs? Just a Necramech division.
All right, this is we're getting to the real questions now. This is the real show, folks. You got through that beginning part. It was all just the test.
Yeah.
Now you're in the back room where we talk about the real facts, the things people want to know.
Mhm.
When is Necramech Driftframe? I'm telling you what, it's if I am available, it is the day that they put them in normal missions. I will be streaming doing Necramech Driftframe. When I say promise, I mean if I am available, then I will do that. It's not gonna be good, but it's gonna be funny. So that's absolutely gonna be a thing that we're gonna do. Do we need one or both? Do they need to add more? Well, the thing is, one of the nuances of Necramechs is that they have 12 mod slots, and you can kind of put most of the relevant mods on your build at the same time. There isn't really much build craft for Necramechs, and so you can definitely put every mod that even is related to speed on your build at the same time. So there's not really unless they made a Necramech with a drift frame ability, and there actually is already a little bit of tech that we found. So Bone Widow's first ability, you do a hook and you can stab an enemy and get lifesteal. It's like a healing ability. That ability cancels the hard landing that you get when you jump with a Necramech. You know, they're heavy, and so I think this is terrible, but they hit the ground and they go, huh. If you use Bone Widow's hook as you hit the ground, you cancel the hard landing, and you can also slide. Sliding uses your Necramech fuel or whatever, but that also cancels hard landing. So as you jump through levels, that's going to be a big thing. But I'm telling you, don't get too excited, because Necramech Driftframe, we're talking. You do a normal Driftframe race, it probably takes like a minute to finish. Necramech Driftframe, my prediction is maybe 10 minutes. It's going to take a lot. They're slow, man. Like, it's going to take a long time.
It will be like it could be like the minor leagues for people that want to get in but aren't comfortable with like the super high speed. This could be something where if you're watching like high level sports, like things just go so fast you can't understand. And here's like if I'm just coming into Driftframe, someone can just explain like, watch this. This is the way they do it. This is what you can see. And now watch your real thing. Now watch like the full Driftframe, and now you can see it. Now you can spot the patterns. Now you can see what they're doing.
I don't know. I almost feel like it's gonna be harder, because you're also punished so heavily. Like, you need to manage your fuel in a way you don't need to energy. Usually there's a lot you can do in Driftframe, but racing in a Necramech, you're gonna have to manage that fuel gauge, and your only fast thing that you can do is that slide forward, the power slide thing, but you can't really steer it. So it's gonna be really punishing if you power slide and then you hit a wall. You're going to slow down so much. I don't know. I feel like I get that you can pilot it more easily because it's not moving as quickly, but I actually think it's going to be a lot more challenging to do well than.
Yeah. Actually, another thing that I thought about, I think on the Grenier tile set there was this one door where you could only go through the middle bit of the door. So I don't remember whether like you can knock each other away sort of thing with Necramechs, but it could very well be a strat. If you're neck and neck, like, you got to get the positioning of the door just right, otherwise you're gonna like fail. You're gonna have to like be knocked back by the door and then like go through. Like, those are also things which come into play where like with Warframes you don't have to worry about the height of the door.
I'm pretty sure that Necramechs don't have collision, but if they do, that might be a thing, and I think that would be a funny thing. That's a big thing in real racing. And I think it'd be cool if it was also a mechanic in the game. But I also feel like if Necramechs had collision with each other, that would be disastrous. Like, I feel like, just imagine trying to play a normal mission where the Necramechs already can barely fit through the doors, and then they also have collision. Like, outside the context of Driftframe, it will be that's an unmitigated disaster. So they probably won't do that.
I would love to just like stand in the middle of like that door and just like have everyone get light at me. Perfect. Anyway, let's get to the community comeback, and let's get to the topics, because those need to be done as well. So last week we spoke about WhatsApp and Facebook and stuff. Have you, like, Xandy, have you ever used, or at some point in your life, used WhatsApp?
Yes, I use WhatsApp pretty frequently. I have a close friend who lives in England, so I use it almost every day.
Yeah, so it's very, very common in the EU. I don't know how common it is in the US. But last week, last week, users were notified that there is an upcoming update. There's a new update in their privacy policy, which got people a little bit upset because basically, if I can let me open the doc from last week so I can get this all perfect. But basically, they would announce that they would start sharing data with Facebook, which got people quite up in arms because it wasn't just a little bit of data that they would be sharing. It was quite a bit. So let me get to here.
Yeah, yikes from me.
So yeah, so last week they said users got this notification where on February 8th, WhatsApp would be changing their privacy policy, in which the following user data would be shared with all the Facebook companies. This data included users' phone numbers, other people's phone numbers stored in your phone book, in your address book, profile names, profile pictures, status messages from when you are online, and diagnostic data collected from app logs. So that got people quite upset because it's basically, Facebook can now link you to your phone number, and even if you don't use WhatsApp, if you have 10 friends that have WhatsApp and have you in their address book, they can just link it up. So that got people a little bit, not too happy about that. We actually have a topic today where they have postponed that, but comment on that topic right there. Ephime asked, how much of what Facebook is doing is necessarily legal? As a part, should a person consent on the terms and conditions, that person, and thus Facebook, still does not have my consent to use my data, even through that person's phone. So, let's see. Hold on, let me see. I think they kind of get to first of all, let's get into the legality first.
Let me restate the thing. So
Yeah.
what's being asked here is what Facebook is doing legal or no?
Mm-hmm.
For one matter, if you consent to the terms and conditions, Ephime is saying, does that, did you consent to Facebook using your data through your phone? And the answer is yes, you did.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the terms and conditions work. That is legal if it's in the terms and conditions. You can absolutely sign a contract that says, I agree to share that information with you. There's no reason that's somehow not legal.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not ethical. It's just wrong. It's not that it's somehow illegal. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know, but I'm just saying it's not. I don't think the question is whether it's permitted by the law. I mean, in different countries, it may or may not be, but certainly in the United States, I don't see why that wouldn't be legal or that couldn't be legal. It's just bad. I don't know.
I think a part of it comes down to you can consent to share your information with a company, but about the phone numbers in your address book. If you, let's say, consent in WhatsApp to share your information, but I don't consent to WhatsApp to share my phone number, but because you have my number in your address book, then is that legal because I did not give consent to share my information?
Right, and the other aspect of that is I use WhatsApp, and I agreed to WhatsApp's terms and conditions when I started using WhatsApp, but I didn't agree to these. And so, of course, what's going to happen is when they do this, WhatsApp will send out, an email, or there'll be a pop-up in the program.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they'll do. That will say, we've updated our terms and conditions, click yes or whatever. And you cannot click yes. You'll read them and it will say, we can share some of your data, and you could disagree to that, or you could agree to it. So I don't really think that part, there's no legality issue there. The question is about exactly like you're saying, this thing about it being connected to other people. You're sort of getting someone else's data that way. Or for another example, let's say that goodness forbid, I committed a crime. And as part of the investigation, my phone is confiscated and they need to read my logs in my phone because I committed a crime. I committed a crime, but does that mean that the other people I was talking to should then somehow also not get their privacy?
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's probably not okay or safe for anyone involved if I, a criminal, get to just delete what the other people in my life said and leave only what I said. You know what I mean? And so what do? I just wanted to point out that while I agree that it feels clearly wrong for WhatsApp to be able to essentially take the information from other people in your contacts book in WhatsApp, but I just wanted to point out that there are other parts of our society where we do usually allow something similar, and we don't immediately consider that to be so black and white. It's like if you committed a crime or something, then what does that mean about the other people in your phone? Do they still get their privacy? I think we can generally agree, no, for everyone's safety, it's okay to basically violate their privacy in a limited and controlled way so that they can da 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 da. So maybe the difference here is that it's not in a limited or controlled way. It's that when we allow the police to look at your phone, or your computer hard drive is a common one, for an investigation, it is violating the privacy of other people involved sometimes, but in a limited and controlled way. The reason that their privacy is being violated is stated. It's not just you just get their information. You know what I mean? And the police also can't keep that information. So,
I also feel there's a big difference between, I think most of the time when these things get like they look for them, investigate it. When like your phone or your hard drive get investigated because of like a crime, I think most of the time like they need a legal warrant or something to do that.
Yeah, of course.
And
right.
So first of all, there's a difference between this being a private company and it being the government, and most of the time the government is also being kept in check by the people, if it's functioning appropriately.
So we hope.
But at the same time, there's also a like legal system behind it, where hopefully over every case they would go over and only allow people to look through like breach this privacy in cases where it is warranted and where like a judge has gone over it. In this case, it is not even a government; it's just a private organization, and it's not done in a warranted fashion. There's no judge that went over and like, well, is it where like do we need? Is there? It's just like yes, people just like hit yes, and they just continue. So, I think when it comes to like the legality, it is legal, but like, do we want this? Is this like what we need? I don't know. I think I am going to go and skip over the other questions because we do need to get to topics given the time that we have. So actually, let's first finish off this WhatsApp thing because we do have some more development, which I hinted at before. So I think that is interesting to get to first.
They delayed it, yeah.
To kind of connect it, yeah. So WhatsApp postpones privacy update that will share your data with Facebook. So WhatsApp is pushing back its privacy update to, I think, May of 2021 amidst the controversy of sharing data with Facebook. They say they want to clear the air about how your data will be shared. They say, with these updates, none of that is changing. Instead, the update includes new options people will have to message a business on WhatsApp and provides further transparency about how we collect and use data. Whilst not everyone shops with a business on WhatsApp today, we think that more people will choose to do so in the future, and it's important that people are aware of these services. The update does not expand our ability to share data with Facebook. An interesting thing to note is that there are actually different things for the different privacy policies for the EU and the US. So in the EU, because there are different rules, there are different rules in the EU that they accepted the WhatsApp and Facebook merger, or the Facebook acquisition of WhatsApp. We did not have this privacy data sharing thing to Facebook. So we had things for businesses and we had the other thing. But we did not have that our data will be shared with Facebook. So there were two different privacy updates. One for the EU and one for the rest of the world, and the Facebook sharing data was removed from the thing. They also have like this little tweet that they send out right here where it says WhatsApp protection secures your private messages. WhatsApp cannot see your private messages or hear your calls, and neither can Facebook. WhatsApp does not keep logs of who everyone is messaging or calling. WhatsApp cannot see your shared location, and neither can Facebook. WhatsApp does not share your contacts with Facebook. WhatsApp groups remain private. You can set your messages to disappear, and you can download your data. That's what they say in this picture right here. Again, a lot of I feel that first of all, a lot of data comes from metadata, and like I don't doubt that they're not gonna read for all the messages, but there's a large like database that you can just build up of all the metadata of your users, especially if you want to cross-reference it with Facebook, which I have done before because I know that whenever I use Facebook and WhatsApp at the same time, but like a couple of years ago, like there would be this option where I could just like fill in my phone number on Facebook because apparently they knew already what my phone number was. I just had to say like, okay, give the go ahead to like add that to my account. And that was the moment I said, nope, I'm not going to use this anymore. I'm going to delete my Facebook account because I think this is creepy. I don't think my Facebook account needs my phone number. So yeah, I'm not too excited. Like I'm happy that they're postponing the date, but like I'm not too excited about like many things changing. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note that it may be true that they're not going to breach your privacy any more than they already do or don't
Mm.
when this happens, and they are being genuine when they say you're when you use WhatsApp. A lot of the reason a lot of people use WhatsApp is because the conversations you have on WhatsApp are private and encrypted, and according to their release, that's still going to be true. Now, you would need to read the terms and conditions to find out if that actually is true, but I don't think there's any relevant reason to worry that they're going to somehow lie about that part any more than they already are. And the point you made about metadata. Yes, it's probably true that your conversations are completely private on WhatsApp, but you can still extract some metadata from that, and that does matter. I think there's a separate discussion about how harmful it is. I think we can all agree that it's annoying or creepy, and exactly how materially harmful it is, I think that's tricky. I'm not saying it isn't at all harmful. I'm not saying it's extremely harmful. It's hard to say. It's much like saying, let's say you sold your medical data to a research institution, and they used it for research. I think we can agree that that is not completely unproblematic, but not instantly disastrous. Like they could just use it for research, and then there might be some concerns about privacy leaks, but mostly it's probably fine. Or maybe they'll be totally disingenuous and be like a lot of companies that sell your phone number to get a little bit of extra money. It's hard to say, we don't know, but I think it's worth noting that we all have this knee-jerk reaction to say our privacy is being violated, so it's bad. But I do think it's worth taking a measured approach and thinking about, okay, but are they violating the privacy that we care about on WhatsApp? Are they just allowing themselves to take metadata that realistically they already know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a complicated situation, and it doesn't straightforwardly matter for most people. I think for most average users, there isn't really any meaningful difference, and I think you shouldn't care. But I think it means something for communication in general, largely because of what you mentioned about the EU having different privacy concerns, because of the thing we mentioned before about phone numbers. Now, if I use WhatsApp and you don't, and I have you in my WhatsApp account, they can get your phone number. If I use WhatsApp and you use WhatsApp, and you're in the EU and I'm in the US, then what's up with the different privacy laws? Because they can
Yeah.
you see what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is more the concern. This is more of a global society moment to me, rather than your privacy is immediately forfeit, because it isn't realistically. Like they'll have your phone number, and that's mostly it for a lot of people. And I think that on its own is a single event. I don't know how significant that is. And I think a lot of the people upset about this feel that way too. It's a slippery slope concern. But so that's what I think.
I like. I think that, as you say, like I don't think it is as significant as people make it out to be compared to what they had before. But I do think that it's an interesting moment, especially in time when you look at if I would have gone ahead and asked people 5 or 10 years ago on the street, like, hey, would you mind like sharing your like whenever you go on would you mind sharing whenever like you're awake or you're online and you're on your phone, would you like to share your phone number, all the addresses, all the contacts in your phone book, and also what are you doing on your phone, like what are you busying yourself with, would you like to share that with a company for like nothing in return, sort of thing? I mean, like a messaging service in return, but like, would you just like to share that with like a globally owned company who you don't know? It's like most people would just say no, like because like that's creepy, that is weird, you don't want that. Most people, and like I think that as you say, the slippery slope where people have instant, like at the start, just accepted this thing where it's like, well, hey, it's a free service, and like, what do I have to do? I can just sign up, I just give an email, whatever, or I give a phone number or whatever, and like slowly but surely this thing is building up. To a point, I mean, like, I am not a big fan of smart speakers. I don't know if you use any of them or have used any of them. I have not used any of them before. But whenever you hear these stories where people are like, well, we were just talking in our home about things, and I think there was I recently heard someone say that they were like they were playing a game, and it was like, and the other person lost, and they were like, oh, I might just kill myself now, because like just kind of as a joke sort of thing. And then the smart speaker went to like recount like the suicide hotline to them, and they were like, well, we didn't even trigger it, we didn't even say like the word to get it thing started, but it was listening in, it hurt like kill myself, and it was like, oh shit. And that is weird, because that feels very much like a 9084 scenario where, you constantly have everything like listening into you, which I am not the biggest fan of.
Sure. I mean, your mobile phone has its microphone on when you're not using it, and if you say, for example, we call my Anna, my girlfriend, and I call our cats baby. Sometimes we say, "Oh, baby, cute baby." And so my phone has heard that a lot of times, and I get this stupid ad when I watch videos on Facebook about having a child. Like, oh, you're like a young parent. Like, no, YouTube, I hate children and I will never have a child. And it hurts me to say that, but it's just not, it just won't let go, because I say the word baby a little bit too often to my friggin' cats. And so now YouTube has locked onto it, and they think, oh, we do whatever. The reason I bring up that example is because it's obnoxious, but also because it's an example of how at the moment, I think it's important to keep in mind that a lot of the usage of this data is pretty stupid. Like, it's not that malicious because it's not targeted. I think the concern is much more that there's really not a reason it couldn't be targeted. That is of concern. This idea that, oh, YouTube knows what kind of porn I like to watch. It's like, well, who cares? Because it's just a robot, and it sends you hilariously inaccurate recommendations based on that information. No, what actually matters is that information is out there somewhere and could be searchable. And it's probably not being used for much of anything now, but there's no reason that we know that it won't be, And I think that's the concern to me. In fact, I often go out of my way to troll my phone, and you're sitting in the room for hours in silence, and you suddenly say, I know you're watching, and just put it down. And if there is some surveillance dude on the other side, they probably just wet their pants, and you can rest assured that you were able to get back at them in that small way. But realistically, that's probably not happening now. It's just, I don't know, it's a slippery. I get why people would be scared. That's my response.
Yeah, no, like I agree, and this is something which definitely has me wondering, like, do I still want to use WhatsApp? Because like I'm not a big Facebook fan. Or a phone. Actually, like I've already swapped to like I'm using this as my daily phone right now, and I really like it. I'm planning on making a video about it soon. But basically, like this is like a brand new Nokia phone, and it's $20. You can buy it for $20. You have a phone which just calls, which like sends text messages. Like you can, like it also has a headphone jack. It's better than an iPhone. Oh my god! But the great thing is that I don't have to worry about this thing being like connected to whatever. But that's actually not. That wasn't actually my main concern. My main concern was whenever I go to. I mean, like, I don't really go out anymore, but whenever I did go out to people and visit them, like, you often see just people, like, sitting on their phone like that. And it was just really fucking annoying, because I do that too, especially when you're just, like, you have a dead moment, you just, like, start scrolling, and I don't like that, because I come to visit people, and I don't want to be here on my phone, but I also want to be reachable. And on the other hand, like, I want to be reachable, but at the same time, like, if I have, like, I still have, like, one of these phones, which I just use as, like, a glorified iPod sort of thing. But whenever I would have one of these phones, like, I would also have Discord on it and email and all that sort of thing. So I would tend to turn it off, because I would always get notifications, or I would always be online, and like, so the entire point of the phone of like being reachable and like using it to like have a thing with which you can always call, like I would turn it off. I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, I just want a phone with which I can call, which doesn't form a distraction for me, and something also where This thing was a couple $100, and I'm not gonna take it out in the rain. I'm not gonna like throw around with it. This thing, whenever I go running and it's raining out, I don't care. I just put it in my pocket. I just have it with me, and if it drops and if it drowns or whatever, I just buy a new one. It's $20. Like I'll just toss it in my backpack. I always have it with me, and the battery never fucking dies. So like I really like this, and I don't have to worry about it spying on me. Though I will say, I know you're watching.
I was gonna say, but still, it's worth doing. I mean, I recently got my new webcam has the little privacy cover
Ooh.
thing. I know it looks like I'm just covering that with my finger, but I'm not. It's a little privacy gate, which that wasn't why I chose this webcam, but I use it. I didn't. So I don't know. Anyway,
let's move on to some actually game topics, because we do talk about games. We talked about the games at the start, but let's move to Genshin Impact freeing up more activities from resin restrictions, which I initially thought was a good thing, but like there wasn't much in the article, and there are some comments that you have. So first of all, well, as the article said, in the upcoming 1.3 update for Genshin Impact, which is scheduled to arrive in February this year, Genshin Impact's developer MiHoYo has announced changes to the resin system. Now, what I read in the article was that things like resin requirements would be eased and probably even removed from activities which I normally do in co-op mode, which is like ley lines, which is like the bosses, that sort of thing. But there are some notes. So what is up? What is wrong with the article? What's going on, Xandy? Because you are more on the inside of me.
The premise, the little footnote for this entire discussion about Genshin Impact is that the article, Michel picked out this article on PC Gamer. They're getting called out, and I admit my bias. I think PC Gamer is a bad website with bad information. It's fine if you watch it or read it, whatever. But I had a bias toward it before, and so I thought, it's funny. What you wrote in the note doesn't sound like the information I read from their official website. So I read the article. And yeah, it's totally wrong. At least there's no good reason to think that. If you look at their official website, they pretty clearly just say, just like it is already the case, we're going to continue to not charge you resin for events. And by events, we mean limited time events that get added to the game and then removed. If you've been playing Genshin Impact, you know that that's already been true for months. And all they were saying is that they're not going to change that. It is still going to be true that is the case. Now, to be fair, in their official press release, it is a little bit unclear. So I'll read you exactly what they wrote.
Mm-hmm.
In the official press release, it's a Q&A with the developers talking about version 1.3, which is in February. And one of the questions was, we would like to have more original resin. Yes, obviously, everybody feels this way. And there are two answers. The first one is, and I quote, all events in version 1.3 that do not require challenging leyline outcrops or domains will not consume original resin. The vast majority of large-scale events in future versions will also not consume original resin. So I understand why reading that quickly, and being a PC gamer who doesn't actually play video games, no offense, they would think, oh, this means there's a change coming where this thing will be changed. But if you've been playing the game, you'd know that all events that don't require challenging blah, blah, blah will not consume original resin. That's already true. That's already the case. There's no change here. They're just confirming that will remain the case. They have no plans to change it. That's all they're saying. That was a very major change to the resin system. If you've been playing Genshin Impact since launch, there was an early event that gave very generous rewards, but it did cost resin. And so the interesting situation we had while that event was live was that the event would give a lot of mora, which is like money, and experience tomes, to level up your characters. And so there were already things in the game that you could always do that gave those. And so the event was balanced, so you would get more of that stuff by doing the event, which meant that for the duration of the event, you just farmed the same way, but it was just pointless to do anything except the event, which is a little silly. And it made a lot of people feel like if they wanted to complete the event, they did not have enough resin. There was no way, which is silly, of course. And so they made future events not cost resin. And we've had quite a few now that have been pretty generous rewards-wise. It's not like they don't give good stuff anymore, but they just don't cost anything. You can just do them. And they're just going to keep doing that. The big change is something we can talk about later about the battle pass. But the note that I put in our show notes for this section is that this article really gives a very surface level interpretation of what they said, and there's really no reason to believe that it's going to be any different. They didn't say it was going to be different. They were just kind of confirming, and I'm sure lots of people didn't know that. They probably thought, oh, there was just that one event that doesn't cost resin. It's not like they're going to do this going forward. They did announce that they're going to do this going forward already, but it's reasonable they might want to announce it again. And the main thing I wanted to talk about is that I don't think that that makes this article uninteresting. I think that it's a really interesting aspect of Genshin Impact as a game that it's extremely popular. It's played by a very wide variety of different ages, experiences with this type of game and video games in general, and also played by an unusually large number of different language groups. There are, of course, the game is made originally in Chinese, and so there's a vibrant Chinese community, but there is for a lot of games. But the game's official voiceover is also in Korean and Japanese and English. And so, of course, it's a global game, and lots of games that appeal to global audiences have lots of people of different languages. But just to say that this game has a particularly robust PR and discussion community in many languages. And so it's very common for things to be misunderstood. I wouldn't be surprised if the official source that I read you, that sounded a little ambiguous, but was pretty clearly just confirming it, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a lot less ambiguous in Chinese and it was translated. And that's why it was a little ambiguous. But this kind of stuff happens all the time in Genshin Impact. Things where if you really dig, the developers did confirm a certain thing, but it's kind of unclear. This is not an uncommon occurrence with this game. So we can talk more about what the article says, because they do bring up a small thing that is true about getting more resin. And I was also interested to know what you thought about just like the game being globally often misunderstood as a trend. It's it's a gacha game with a complicated gacha system. There's a million different ways you could talk about that I'm sure we won't get to. By the way, if you want to read the Q&A for yourself, I linked it in chat.
Oh wait, hold on. I'll make you. How did I not mod you yet? Let me mod you. So then you can post links. We just to prevent people from coming in and spamming links.
Okay,
throw it in there. It will work now.
I'll try again. So again, for the people watching, if you want to read their official information about this for yourself, and I mean, I'm not absolutely sure they don't mean anything different by that. I just think there's no reason to interpret it differently the way this article did. You can decide for yourself. There is the source that I'm using.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I'll trust you and this like direct from the source sort of thing, source much more than an article on a news site, which has the reputation that you described. This is like the first time that I've encountered it. That said, like there could have been many more times where the information was wrong, but like we didn't know. So like I'll.
No, I'm. It's not like the site is. I'm being a little bit facetious. PC Gamer is allowed to exist. I'm just saying they're wrong about this.
Yeah. No. Though first of all, let's get to the game itself. Because as you said, like this is a very interesting game in the style of like what type of game it is, by what kind of audience it's played, and where it kind of positions itself. Because basically, the way that I see it, Genshin is, I believe, originally a gacha game, which you have many of on mobile. Basically, if you go to the mobile Play Store, App Store, whatever you use, there are many games which follow the same basic rules of Genshin. And one of the things which was being said in chat by Trigon is that the gacha stamina system is super common in gacha games. So like the idea that you can play a game and every single day you can do a certain amount of activities only for a limited amount of like stamina. And if you want to do more, you gotta spend more money. And if you don't want to spend money, you just gotta wait. That's a very common thing in like the gacha system with gacha games. However, I do believe that Genshin is such a like good kind of like gives another value judgment to it, which I don't necessarily want to give in that sense, but I do think that it is a particularly good or particularly well-made gacha game that you almost feel that it's no longer a gacha game, or at least that's the way it comes across to me. So What I mean with that is if I play mobile gacha games, like I've only played in mobile, like you will have a limited activity. Most of the time, what they will have is they will have a auto run. So like basically you can do adventures and you can just like open up, like go into maps and you can run missions and you can just like tap it to like autoplay. You can just have it sit there and autoplay, and the gameplay generally is not all that interesting, but it's more about the characters you get. It's more about the story you get, and like they're very good on characters and story and on voiceover, but like most of the time their gameplay is not all that visually engaging because it's meant to be a mobile game. And then Genshin Impact comes around, and Genshin Impact like was dubbed the free-to-play Breath of the Wild because it looks really interesting. The world looks amazing. You can run around with this character, which like it's not a mobile game. And I think because of that, and I tend to do this myself, and I don't know how you feel about it. Like I tend to forget it's a gacha game. So when I was speaking with Drew initially about Genshin Impact, like Drew was very excited about it, but then he lost interest because he said, "Well, the multiplayer is just bad," in the sense of I want to be able to do the story with 4 of my friends. I want to be able to run around and play it like a Warframe, let's say, where you just PVE it. I want to be able to do more multiplayer, and I found that too. Is like multiplayer is super limited because basically all the multiplayer activities you can do is basically like the daily commissions. You can do the resin activities, and you can like do some mining and some random raiding, but not really much more. So if your resin runs out, like there's not a lot of multiplayer to do. But that doesn't really tend to happen in gacha games. Many gacha games don't really have like a sophisticated multiplayer. Many gacha games are not intended for you to with for co-op mode PVE play for the story quest, because that's not really gacha. So I believe that when it comes to Genshin, it's such an interesting game, which is like for such a wide variety of people, that it's oftentimes a lot of criticisms comes because it is people don't really entirely understand what it is.
And I think I'm going to argue with you a bit about, or nitpick this term, calling it a gacha game. Gacha isn't a type of game; it's a monetization system. And I think that the way to dispel 80% of the confusion about Genshin Impact is to remove the idea from your head that there is a type of game called a gacha game. Gacha is a method of monetization, and there are lots of games that use gacha as a monetization method that are, I'm really glad you gave this example because I haven't played these kinds of games, but I knew they existed, they're kind of autoplay games. This is your AFK Arena, or I have never played any of these games, so I just know of the ones that what you were talking about, where yes, you roll for characters like in a gacha, and yes, there is stamina. These things that when people say gacha as a genre, they mean these things. They mean collectible waifus, rolling for characters randomly, stamina, etc. But a lot of those games don't have any autoplay function, and a lot of them do. And there are other games like Fake Grand Order, which is the other gacha game that I play, that is in no way automated or automatable. Well, without using your own third-party software anyway. And not that I would do such a thing.
No.
But people do it. And it's meant to be a game that you sit down and play. It's not, when you say a mobile game, I think the trap here is saying, oh, because it's a gacha game, because it's a mobile game, but what do these things mean? And something being a mobile game often means that this is a game that you play in your idle time, like while you're on the train or whatever. And so they have an autoplay feature because you might want to leave it going while you're on your commute or something, whereas Fake Grand Order doesn't have such a thing because it's meant to be at least significantly a story motivating experience. And it's also meant to be kind of more, it's meant to be hard sometimes, not that I'm sure there are auto gacha games that are meant to be hard. Sometimes, I don't know, but you get the point. And so I think the difficulty with why resin, a resource that you regenerate over time, limits you by time, is such a big deal in Genshin Impact to people, is because the game is not designed to be a game that you play idly on your commute. You could do daily commissions, I guess, on your daily commute on your phone, but the game is clearly not intended to be something that you play idly. It just is also available on a phone. It's not really a mobile game in any meaningful way. It just has, it is available on a phone, and it is made by a company that's only made a mobile game before, and it has a gacha monetization system, and a stamina system, 2 common mobile game mechanics. But otherwise, the gameplay of the game has nothing to do with mobile games. It's literally Breath of the Wild. It just also has a gacha monetization system. I mean, and a lot of other things, sure, but you get what I'm trying to say. And so, I think that the tricky thing is to think about. This is a game that is trying to combine a monetization style with a type of gameplay that doesn't usually have it. And I think it doesn't help that the game that Genshin Impact is closest inspired by, Breath of the Wild, was already a pretty revolutionary game. It was not like when you say an open world game, you think of those Ubisoft games where you climb the towers and look at what, although Breath of the Wild does have those towers. Anyway, but Breath of the Wild is largely different from those. It's atmospheric in a different way. It has a very different art style. It has a very different sort of combat. Cooking. It's different in lots of ways. You get it. And Genshin Impact is inspired by that very young genre, if you want to call it a subgenre, that Breath of the Wild birthed, if you want to say it that way. And so to combine that very young game in a young genre with this monetization system that is largely unprecedented on PC. There are pay-to-win loot boxes in some games, but this is pretty different from that. Genshin Impact's gacha in particular is also not just a vanilla gacha. It's not like Fake Grand Order where you roll and the characters have an odd for how likely you are to get them, and that's it. It has pity as well, which a lot of people weren't from. In fact, I had never played as someone familiar with gacha. I didn't really know how a pity system worked, and so I think that's where the complication comes in. It's going out of its way to be a lot of new things at once, and so of course it's confusing.
Yeah. No, I do think that there is. Yes, I mean, gacha is originally a what is it, like a monetization system, but I do think that it shares some aspects of what people generally tend to call a gacha game. So I would argue, yeah, like technically speaking, it is a monetization system, but it's also been said very commonly to be a type of game, and maybe it's not officially defined as a type of game, but I do think that there is a lot of similarities between several different of these types of games where a gacha monetization system is being used, and because of that, there are also some things which are in common, which people would describe as a gacha game, not to describe just a monetization system. So, for example, I have here another game called Epic 7. This is like one of the gacha games, which I played a lot. And as you can see, a couple of things which I think are very indicative of this genre, which I call a gacha game genre, like myself, is that what you like a big focus on it is on the characters you acquire. So you can't acquire all the heroes, but like you can you can acquire all the heroes, but you can't acquire them like freely. Like you'll have to roll the dice for it, sort of thing. And mostly like you'll have like a free opportunity to be able to acquire them. But like more than likely you'll be trying to like spend money on it, or the game wants you to spend money on it to try and roll the dice to like get your character and then boost your character with different iterations of the character. So you want to get more drops of the character so you can like boost it. So because of that, a big focus of this game is like getting those characters, getting those different starred and different tiered characters, and also getting different starred and tiered weapon systems. No weapons or mods to boost your character, and you can also get those by rolling. Now, this is the thing with Epic 7, is that a lot of these games, which are called gacha mobile games, are in gameplay wise, as you can see, they're not like Genshin at all. They're not like that at all. It's most of the time like a map like this. I don't know if this is going to get into gameplay right here, and you can also see actually right here you also have that energy system. You can only do so many missions a day. If you want to use more energy, you use more energy. And like what I found in here is that the animation style, the storytelling is really, really good, because the product that they want to sell at the end of the day is not necessarily your gameplay. It's very much the characters. They want you to really get invested in the characters. They really want you to get invested in the story. And because you get invested in them, you want them, and therefore you will go and roll them, and hopefully you'll go and buy packs to keep on rolling them and get the ones you want. So I think that a couple of things which like define a gacha for me is that you have like the primary focus is on kind of like the story and the characters. Then you can't acquire all the characters by just playing. Like the focus is on getting the focus is on like rolling them, and most likely if you want to roll all of them, or you want to get like a decent chance to like level them up, like you really have to kind of or constantly play it, like 24/7 sort of thing, play it to the max, or pay up. And they'll have these common events where they really highlight characters, because characters are really important, because you constantly want to bring up characters. And you can also like get a free trial of that character, which is of course the maxed out version. So if you're interested in that character, which is like the maxed out version, and then if you get it, you're gonna like get it 10 times or something in order to like fully unlock it. So those are some common things which I find when it comes to gacha games, which I kind of classify as gacha games. Which I also see coming back in in Genshin. And one of those examples is, for example, the the XP system. So I found combat in the first little bit very interesting, but later on I lost interest in combat because the XP you get back from it is so little. Like, it's not really a viable way of going after enemy camps or going after enemies to level up. Like, you'll just fight them because you have to fight them, but if you really want to level up, you gotta use these XP books, and I don't know, whatever they're called. And that is something which is also very common when it comes to these gacha games, where it's like the primary thing is not necessarily that you play the game, whereas if you play something like Breath of the Wild, which I actually haven't played, but I would assume that if you play Breath of the Wild, through like your primary way of gaining XP is through fighting enemies. Like, the primary focus isn't here to play the game or play the game in a multiplayer mode. The primary focus here is to make sure that you collect the things, that you collect the heroes, and that you collect the XP boosters so you can boost yourself up, and that you can get to that level, and that you can ascend again and ascend. And so I do think that there is some sort of genre there, but as you say, it's very young, so like it hasn't been clearly defined. But I think that is what people mostly mean. They don't just refer to the monetization system, but also to some commonalities which are between these games.
Well, Genshin Impact is not a game that isn't about playing it, though. That's just not true. I mean, if you want to level up your characters in Genshin Impact, you must play the game. That's the only way to get that stuff. It's true that you're not supposed to run around the map and kill enemies, like only to get experience. But the combat is how you complete ley lines that give you experience books, or domains that give you talent books, or whatever. You have to play. It's not about just collecting those things. You have to play a lot. If you get let's say a new character and you want to level them up, you need to play a lot. You cannot pay to level up the character. You have to play the game extensively. The focus is absolutely 100% on playing the game. That is a pretty big difference from a lot of gacha games. I mean, there are games that Faker and Order is a game where you play a lot to level up your characters, but a lot of the time the focus is on collecting all of the stuff, largely because there isn't much else in the game. There is just little else to focus on, whereas Genshin Impact has a lot of other stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I know what people mean when they say that gacha is a genre. I don't begrudge you explaining it. I'm sure not everyone is familiar, but just to be clear, what I mean is, yes, and I think they're wrong. I think that is not a useful genre term. I think when you say that you focus on leveling characters up, not by killing enemies, that's something that's common in gacha games and a lot of other kinds of games. It doesn't really have anything to do with gacha specifically. It's just that indeed, in a game like a gacha game where the focus is on collecting characters, it makes sense to have that type of leveling system, because you don't have to actually use the character. I have a great example of this in Fate Grand Order. There's a character that the banner just came out yesterday that I really like and I really wanted. It's Miu, if you play FGO. And Miu is horrible. She's so bad. Like, one of the worst 4-star characters in the game, in a game that has a lot of 4-star characters. She's very, very bad. And so I'm not this kind of player, but there are a lot of kinds of players who feel like, well, I wanted to be excited about this character, so I want to level them up to max level, but I'm not going to use them because they're terrible. And so it makes sense to want to level that character up all the way, right? And in fact, Faker and Order has a pretty large power gradient between its characters as well. There are a lot of good characters that are free, and a lot of good characters that are paid, and a lot of bad characters that are free and paid. Genshin Impact is also different like that, though, because basically all of the characters are quite good, and even the characters that are not so directly powerful, like Amber, are very clearly designed around. And so in practice, Amber is quite useful because the developers know you have her. Lisa is free and is extremely powerful. Kaya is free and is not extremely powerful, but very useful. They certainly didn't give you a bad character. And Amber and Lisa, at the very least, absolutely have niches where this is the only character that fills that niche, or the character that most strongly fills that niche, even though they're free. And Genshin Impact is yet again a game where you can kind of collect most of the characters too, just not the 5 stars. So that's what I mean when I say I think it is different in a lot of ways that make it unhelpful to refer to it as a gacha game. It's a game that also prominently has a battle pass. It's a game that also prominently has potential other monetization systems. I'm sure in a couple months we can come back to the topic of skins,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe or maybe not going to sell. For people unfamiliar, usually in gacha games, if a character is going to have a skin, that's a new version of the character
Mm-hmm.
you roll for. But it's not like you couldn't have skins for characters. And I've always thought Genshin Impact was a game that struck me as hedging its bets about how loot boxes will be legislated in the future. It's a game that's monetized in a lot of ways, and they could just kind of focus less on some of them if they needed to. Funny. I wonder why you designed a game like that. It can't be because some countries are passing legislation against gambling in video games.
Mm-hmm.
What a coincidence.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to mention quickly was this thing about resin. Trigon in chat mentioned the gacha stamina systems are really common. It's one way they make money. And that is kind of inaccurate. It depends on the gacha game a lot. There are some games like Faker and Order that once you've played them for a while, stamina kind of is gone as a mechanic, and it's not a major way that they make money off of casual players. Now, whales, sure, but even then, it's really not a huge percentage of their earnings. Genshin Impact isn't really that way either. You can't refill your resin by paying gems as much as you want. You can only do it a certain amount of times per day. And many hardcore players agree that that is not a meaningful way to do it. I mean, if you're a massive whale, sure, but only the hugest whales in Genshin are really doing that. It depends on the game a lot. The reason the resin system is in Genshin Impact is to slow people down. It's not so they can make a ton of money. I don't see how it would make them a ton of money. And on that note, I wanted to quickly mention that they said they're going to add more resin to the battle pass. So the battle pass will soon have resin in it. They're kind of adding a tiny bit more resin, but that's pretty much it as far as I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No. I mean, like, I agree. I agree on a lot of points. It's, I think it's just on the surface level, especially when it comes to when you go into this game and you're playing it and you're expecting like, oh, hey, there's multiplayer, and hey, I can play this with my friends, and then when you find that the couple of the two main things that I ran into is, first of all, that like the battle itself wasn't rewarding in the sense like if I would fight enemies, I wouldn't get more XP out of it. Like the XP that I got out of it was very meaningless. So like I wouldn't go out and run around the map and then engage with enemies, because engaging with these enemies, just random enemies on the map, would really be rewarding. It's more like, oh well, I mean, let's get them out of the way, but don't go and like search for them if you want to level up. But more importantly than that is that when you want to play with a group of people, unless you're doing an event, like you gotta be using resin, and you're gonna be running for that quite quickly. So you can't be jumping on Genshin and being like, well, let's go play with the 4 of us for a couple of hours and let's do all meaningful things, because you're going to be running out of activities quite quickly, which is something which I think a lot of people are running into, and which is why then the argument of it's being a Gacha game is being brought up.
I guess, I mean, I would love to know how many people care about Genshin Impact being multiplayer. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised to hear you talk about that, but it's great to have that perspective. I have just hardly ever heard anyone talk about. I mean, people often complain that multiplayer is suboptimal, because it is, but I just don't. I disagree that it's a problem that the enemies don't. That multiplayer is not rewarding. I think maybe it's the game's fault for even including multiplayer if it wasn't going to be rewarding. But I think the reason they did that is the same reason that a lot of gacha games include a sort of friendship system. This is something common to games with gacha monetization, where you're allowed to somehow utilize other people's characters, whether they directly play with you or whether you just borrow them. That's how it works in Faker and Order. Just in case you're a player that doesn't pay a lot. I think these games always carefully balance, the good ones, carefully balance being able to play at the highest level without paying any money. And Genshin Impact does a pretty good job of that. One of the ways it does a good job of that is that if you need to go farm Crimson Witch of Flames from that stupid fire domain at the beginning of the game when we had no cryo attackers, you probably can't do it unless you rolled Chi-Chi. and
Mm-hmm.
so or you have a really good Chongyun, and so you're gonna have to do co-op. Otherwise, the game wouldn't feel like it was free to play because you would need to have those characters to feel like you don't need them, but you get what I
Yeah.
mean. That domain is really hard if you don't have a good
Mm-hmm.
cryo attacker, and so it's fine. You can just use co-op for that. And when I played Genshin Impact, I had interpreted it as being, oh, this is just their version of that system. You're not supposed to think of the game as being co-op. It's just as a last resort. If you
Yeah.
can't clear the domain, then you have this option. And I've heard plenty of people complain about co-op, even though they only think of it that way, myself included. But I do think that is a perspective on it. What
Yeah.
you wanted from the game was a more co-op. I would love to be able to play Genshin Impact story with someone else. It's too bad you can't do that.
Yeah.
And
So
maybe they should have made that more clear or clarified their intentions. You know,
yeah. So like the way that Drew and I went into this is like we were looking forward to, oh my god, it's gonna be what is it? It's gonna be a Breath of the Wild style thing where you can play with 4-player co-op. So we were looking
right?
forward to like I was especially looking forward to that when you hit the moment when you can do co-op, that I would just be able to start up my stream and fight 4 people from from my community over, because a lot of people were playing it, and we would just be able to like go for the quests together. We would just be able to like play a kind of Warframe style, but not entirely Warframe, but like the way that Warframe plays, where you can just invite people and you can do your quests and you can do your things. And I was hoping to get that out of it because I really enjoy that thing where I can just invite people over, we can do whatever we want. And that is not what Genshin is. And that's also where Drew has like he's kind of stopped playing it because he was really hoping that that was the case, that he could play it to get like I think he started together with Laws, but they couldn't play together until adventure rank 18 or something.
15.
15.
Yeah,
15.
I believe.
And he was very disappointed with that because he was like, well, I just want to start playing with Laws right now. Why is it all the way there? Because that's why I started playing it. And it's interesting to hear that like you have a different perspective where you're like, well, multiplayer isn't the core thing of it, and it's kind of more intended as a last resort sort of thing for using other people's characters if you don't have your own. And that is something which like we stood in like, or at least I and I know Drew as well stood in differently, because we were looking at this as like a um, multiplayer game, or like a PvE, a 4-player co-op game.
Yeah, until you talked about this with me just now, because I remember one thing I'd found odd when I first started playing was that the gaming initially, I found it odd that the game included a co-op mode, but that you unlocked it very late. I've
Mm-hmm.
never played a game that unlocked co-op so late. I mean, probably AR-16 is like it's a while. You have to be
Yeah.
10, 15 hours into the game
Mm-hmm.
and have played a pretty meaningful amount of it. What struck me as odd is that if you're if you are going to like the game, you are already sold on it before you get the co-op part. And so
Mm-hmm.
in that way, you could say that they are effectively communicating that co-op is definitely not a focus because it's not available for you're in full swing before you get co-op. And I think what happened with me is that initially I was confused by that too. I thought, why? I was going to play it with my friend Steven, and I thought, why do you get co-op so late? That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of wasn't even sure there was co-op. A lot of people weren't even sure there was co-op. And then when I got it, by that time, I sort of, without really thinking about it too much, I sort of subconsciously realized or transitioned to, oh, their purpose for putting co-op here is that you're supposed to use it primarily to clear content that you struggle with. If you try to do a domain and you just can't, you're meant to use it as kind of a last resort. Now they don't make that too clear, but I
Mm-hmm.
guess because I'd played a game where you kind of borrow other people's characters before, and because the game makes you play for so long before you get it, to me that was just enough for me to think, oh, it's really just not a co-op game. But I understand why you would think it was, and I feel like it didn't occur to me until just now that it's not. They didn't have some weird reason for making co-op available late. They were trying to communicate that it's really not a game you play co-op, but
Mm-hmm.
they could just say
Yeah.
like, you unlock co-op now. If you have trouble with a hard domain, you can resort to calling in some backup. They do occasionally say that with like daily commissions, but you would never need backup for daily
Yeah.
commissions.
Well,
So
so
I
like
don't know.
that is the thing which I do with daily commissions is like I would start up my like I started my stream and I wait for everyone to join in, then we all 4 do the daily commissions, and then we do defend or whatever like resin things you can do together of whatever domains or ley lines. But yeah, it's the way that we saw it, because like Drew and I went for like sort of at the same time. The way that we saw it was, well, probably they want to avoid a situation like what you have with Warframe, where the tutorial might be a little bit unclear, or where if you're done with 4 sprays, you can just be invited by someone to get to the end of the sort of system and just be like, where the fuck am I, sort of thing. Maybe they just wanted to ensure that people got to a point where they played everything, and you can't do the main the starter quest sort of thing until you are at that AR. But it was just so weird. Like, we thought it was so weird. Like, how can you sell people on a co-op game when you put the co-op so late? But like, it's really cool to see like how we went into it. Maybe the same, but you pull that out of it, because I never, like, until now, I'd never thought of it that way, that it would be multiplayer would be a support thing for in case you need. Like, I just thought that this thing was like, it was in such a way, such a good gacha game, as I would call it, that it would have a multiplayer that like you could play in, but that people would be upset about it because it felt like, oh, we're having multiplayer, but it's being limited unless I pay up. And that is where my notion came from, that it's kind of like a very good gacha game, where you often forget that it has these underlying mechanics, because you are like, I'm really enjoying whenever I'm doing daily commissions with my team. I'm really enjoying when I'm doing like ley lines or domains of my team, but then I stumble upon this thing where like you don't have resin anymore, and it's like, so I get this taste of what could be, but then I would have to pay up in order, if I really want to have this experience where, just like in Warframe days, we would go 5 or 6 hours, just like 4-player co-op the whole time straight. But that's not the intention of the game, but that's how I interpreted the game, and because of that, I was like, well, this is interesting.
Yeah, there are a few sort of closing or continuing remarks about that too. I mean, I don't think that they marketed the game as being co-op, but they did market the game as having cross-play, which feels like a feature that it doesn't seem like it would matter that much if the game wasn't meaningfully focused on co-op. Now, of course, it's still a beneficial feature. If I need backup help in a domain, then there's always people there in 1 second. I don't think I've ever been in queue for a domain for longer than 10 seconds because there's crossplay. But that's such a minor reason for crossplay, and it was such a high profile, high budget game that you wonder that they didn't. A further question I have here is, why isn't the whole game co-op? Like, what, and I think that one reason might be that they still want you to feel. A lot of gacha games try to balance this carefully. They want you to feel a little bit of pressure that you don't have powerful characters. They just don't want it to be you can keep playing, but they want you to notice that you don't have powerful characters. And so by hopefully getting players to sort of do it solo first and then go co-op, there's no problem. You can still get the thing done, often faster than if you did it alone. But you do notice that you couldn't do it yourself, and wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
And so you think about it. And another confusing thing, I sort of understand why you would focus on the game as a co-op experience, is that I was saying before how they could do more to sort of sell it to the player that way, that it's this kind of experience rather than that. And they do say there is a thing that pops up sometimes on loading screens where they say, having trouble with a difficult daily commission, call in some friends for backup in co-op. So that's them suggesting that you're supposed to use co-op as backup, but they're suggesting that only for the easiest content in the game. Why?
Yeah.
Why? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, you might enjoy doing them with friends, but the only time in my time playing that I have never felt like I would benefit from help is when doing daily commissions. I might want to do them with other people, but whereas domains, occasionally I think I would like some help, or a boss, I would like some help. It's just like the thing you wouldn't need help with, and that's the only time I don't know, that's weird. So I think they bear some responsibility here. It's a little weird. The game is just a hodgepodge of things anyway, and so I get why you would think, oh, it's trying to be this kind of game, and then it just takes a very odd approach to that. But why not? Why can't the whole game be? I guess we sort of know. But the story content, why can't you do the story content co-op? I don't know. That doesn't make that much sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's what it is. It's an interesting game, as you say, especially also with like how widespread it is, how many different languages it has. where it cares to, what kind of audience, what kind of genre it is. It's a very confusing thing, but because that's also interesting because it's kind of new. And I'm curious to see where it goes. Also, let me know like how you are with time, because like we can do like, just let me know whenever you're like, hey, I need to start streaming and stuff.
What I'll do now is quickly jump away and prepare, and then we can just go until we're done, and then I'll stream after that. So I'll
Okay.
be back in a few minutes, and then we could just keep going, and then when we're done, then I'll go to mine.
Okay, that's good.
See y'all in a few.
All right, cool, sweet. All right, so then I'm here, and here we go, and Xandy's gone until he comes back. So Xandy will be streaming after the FrameCast. This is something we're trying out, where we see like, hey, can we do? It's really weird because I'm looking at myself right now. I'm talking with myself right now, but you should be hearing me just fine. I'm talking with you right now. I'm talking with you, whether you're listening live, whether you're listening. This is like a recorded thing, sort of thing. You know, hey, how's it going? So we're trying this out, seeing how well this works. So let's move on to one of the subtopics that we can get into. Or actually, like one of the titular topics which I kind of wanted to get to. I don't know how exciting this is to talk about. So we have so many topics, but we can. I'm happy to ditch many of them actually, because like there's so many. Better to have more topics than not. So one thing I want to get into is a hardware launch, a GPU hardware launch. Nvidia launches brand new old GPUs, which are called the RTX 2060 and the RTX 2060 Super. Like, okay, this is if you're not really following hardware stuff or computer hardware, basically over the last couple of months there have been like some pretty big hardware launches. One of those were the consoles, the PS5 and the Xbox Series, but also there have been some interesting releases on the PC side of things, where we had Nvidia come out with their RTX 30 series, which was a really good generational update of graphics cards, and we also had AMD come out with their Zen 3 of CPUs, which were also a pretty damn good upgrade. And you also had the AMD RX 6000 series, which are also GPUs. So if you don't really know what that means, basically it comes down to computing power and graphics power sort of thing, and those are kind of important when you're trying to play games. So it was, for a lot of people, a very interesting time to upgrade. It was, for a lot of people, just like with consoles, a very interesting time to upgrade. But just like with consoles, and even more so than with consoles, basically there was no stock of anything. Right now there is nothing available pretty much, even though the 30 series came out in, I think, September or October. It's been out for like a bunch of months already, and it's just been a bit of a mess. It's been a pretty much a giant mess as far as like the release of these cards has been concerned. Main reasons have been because people are just stuck at home. Most people are not going on vacation. Most people are not going out. So people have a little money over. People are working from home. So hey, might it not be a great time to build a computer? And look at that, the intergenerational leap based on like given last year is pretty damn good. Let's go and buy a computer. And then, of course, you also have the global situation, which is limiting how much people can buy how much companies can supply, materials and stuff. So one of those things, which is here, oh my god, I can see myself twice. One of those things, as you can see here, like if you find a graphics card, it's going to be like $3,500 right here. To buy a RTX 3080 if you want to get that on Amazon. However, it is listed right here as a $700 like graphics card. So it is like things are being sold at a huge markup. Also, mining and stuff has been like insane. So one of those things to combat the supply issues, the supply and scalping issues, is according to the French hardware site, overclocking. Nvidia is relaunching its old RTX 2060 and 2060 Super graphics card in order to tackle the supply issues. So these are the last generation of GPUs which they are launching right now. This comes after Nvidia very recently also announced the RTX 3060 card. So the brand new 60 card. They also are releasing like the last ones, which is the next generation of the 2060. However, due to the global pandemic causing supply shortages, increased demand from working from home, and also increased demand due to the increase of value of cryptocurrencies. Because if this entire global pandemic and also people working from home wasn't enough, Bitcoin has gone up again, which means that people are interested in mining again. And what do you need for mining? GPUs. So there we go. We also have like a bunch of people ready to buy for whatever price they can the latest GPUs, because they're pretty good for like mining Bitcoin apparently. And if you can get your hands on free Bitcoin because you mine them yourself, that could be pretty damn good, because that thing is worth a lot now. So it's not very surprising that 2060 is brought back, as I mean, Even though the intergenerational improvement between like the 70 and 80, like the 3070 and 3080 above the 2070 and 2080 was quite a lot. The difference between 2060 and 3060 didn't really seem to be all that big, especially in restoration games, and not things that use RTX, ray tracing, but use just restoration. Rumors said that these cards have already been shipped to vendors. We don't know the pricing yet. Most likely, the 3060 has an MSRP of $329, and last year the 2060 went for $299. That being said, with the current situation on the market, it can be pretty damn shit. It can be like, most likely, if that MSRP of $329, you'll probably be able to buy it for like $800 from a scalper on eBay, which you should not do. So that is Nvidia launching old GPUs. Honestly, I just think it's a bit of a mess, this entire launch. It's very unfortunate because I am definitely in the market of buying a new PC. Unfortunately, I'm not able to, and I think a lot of people find themselves in this situation where they're not able to, and it's very unfortunate that there are no real like hardware stores where you can go to because most of them are now closed. So it's not even like you can go to a store to buy one of these and get your hands on one for normal MSRP, because you have to buy them online, and a lot of these scalpers will just go ahead and use bots to like buy them in bulk and then sell them for insane inflated prices. I don't really know whether this move of launching an old series GPU will make things better, because yeah, I mean, it's really, really hard to get your hands on anything, and basically, if you were to go to eBay or any of your secondhand internet sites right now, where people are offering up to where people are selling like their secondhand computer hardware, like it's in the same markup too, like 10 series, even 9 series, like things that were out that were released in like 2016 or something are just sold for insane prices because people just want to get their hands on things. Like I think it's a really, really important factor that people are just like working from home, and they're like, most of the time they just did buy with a laptop, especially with like the laptops that we see these days, which are not really good working machines. Like they're made so you can like do a work document and like you maybe make a PowerPoint presentation, but that's about it. What you can do on them, they just look good. And then now people have to work from home, and all this like looking good and portability doesn't really suit them all that much. And hey, they want to go play a game, and guess what? They might have a bit of money over, so why not buy something? So I really hope that this might like fix something. I don't know. Let's see. I would buy a 2060 if it will be $249 or $199 espionage shares. Actually, me too. Maybe. I don't know. So that does seem like a very, very reasonable price, especially compared to that 3,500 that it was on Amazon today. I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that was really, really bad. The thing that I find is I got my I got a 960 that I'm running right now, and I got that in 2016, and it's alright, but I mean, it's alright, we'll leave it at that. So yeah, that is that topic right there. Let me see what else we have here. Yeah, we have a CJ Project Red's co-founder Marvin Evinsky. I really gotta practice my names. Apologize in a YouTube video for the Cyberpunk launch. So this right here is a bit of news about Cyberpunk 2077. I think that most of you will already be aware of the state that Cyberpunk launched in. It's actually good that we talk about this right now with Xandy not being here, because Xandy hasn't played it. I'm in the middle of my playthrough. I haven't finished it yet, so I can talk a little bit about it. So let's see here. In a video released on the YouTube page of Cyberpunk 2077, Marvin Evinsky, the co-founder of CJ Projekt Red, apologizes for the last-gen console launch issues. So if you don't know, there were a lot of bugs. There were a lot of broken things with the game when it launched. It didn't really look as it was advertised, and as Sony came around and kind of blocked the game from their store, and it like started allowing for refunds, it was a bit of a disaster. So Marvin says that he and the board are responsible for the decision to launch the game. The reason why the game released in such a poor state on consoles is, according to him, that it is really hard to make open world games, and their primary focus was to make it work on PC, and then having to port that back to last gen hardware was something which was quite like showed a lot of difficulties. One thing which he did, aside from apologizing, was also show a roadmap to 2021 as to like what is coming up, and this is something which I find to be rather interesting, and something which I kind of wanted to share with you and see what you guys think about that. Let me see if I can turn myself off twice. There we go. I am right here. Actually, I won't have to. Let me see if I can like pop the stream chat out here. I'll just read it. I'll just read it afterwards. Fuck it. Let's just go like this. So this right here is the roadmap which they released right here. As you can see, it has The first things which are coming after the release, we first had the hot fixes, which fixed a lot of issues. I think that yes, there were some bugs. Yes, the visuals of the game may not be up to standard, which you may have expected, but like the game is very much playable. I'm playing it on the Xbox One S right now, and it's fine. It's really good. Like, it's not stunning, it's not overly beautiful, but it's playable. It is not crashing all the time. It's pretty damn good, and I'm really enjoying it. So what we're looking forward to in 2021 is a patch. 2 patches coming up, and then we have free DLCs come out in like Q2 of 2021, and then in the second half of 2021 we're gonna see the next gen console launches of Cyberpunk. So this is something which I thought was quite interesting, where I would have expected, and I didn't really look into this because I don't have a PlayStation 5 or a Xbox Series S, or Xbox Series S, whatever the thing is called. But I would have expected that like their main focus would have been PC and next gen, and that because of that, the last gen was, a little bit less good because they were focusing next gen consoles and they were focusing on PC. However, they weren't. These things, like, you can't really you can play them on the next gen, but they're not really optimized for it. So basically, they haven't launched on PS5 and they haven't launched on Xbox Series yet. I did not know about this because, as I said, I wasn't invested in this. I didn't know about this, and this is something which I thought was really, really strange. And this made the entire thing of how this launch has been handled a lot worse to me, and I can very much understand why people were upset. So, like, I want to counter one thing where, of course, I say, like, this thing it's playable. It's not entirely broken. It's not entirely defective. It's not, like, broken beyond belief. You can't play this game. So, like, these claims where, oh my god, it's so bad, I don't agree with that. On the other hand, though, I do think that if you look at how this game is set up, or like how this game is launched, and like if you look at where a lot of gamers are, like there are a lot of gamers on on PC, but there's also so many on consoles. I would say that like mainstream consoles are very, very important, and the fact that then 2/3 basically of your platform is, or 2/3 of like your release, 2/3 of the places where you release on, like the game doesn't look as advertised, the game doesn't run as smooth, like that is pretty damn bad. That is not very good. And like the next gen console release is coming out also after the DLC is something which I'm not like very, very stoked about. So first we're gonna have free DLC and story updates, and then towards the end of this year we will see like the next gen version coming out, which I think is way too late. I just feel that this, like, I felt Cyberpunk, because also they said it was really aiming at next-gen hardware, would have been like a next-gen hardware release. I can understand that, especially when they were focusing on releasing it in April, that this was not intended to be the next-gen, like, launch game, but it kind of felt like that to a lot of people. It just puts it into perspective, that, like, it should have probably run way better on this current gen of consoles. So it looks and runs better, espionage as on the PS5 than on the PS4 Pro, but it still crashes, and it bugged my main story quest, so I either had to restart or start from a previous save, and then hope that it doesn't bug again. That's my experience on the PS5. Yeah, that is not a great experience on the PS5. Like, I can very well understand why you would go ahead and like refund it at that point in time. So yeah, I tried to play it on PC, like it flatlined for me on PC. I couldn't really get it started on PC, and then when I wanted to play it on on the Xbox, like it would play, but like it doesn't really look as good. Like there have been better looking games. That said, I do really like the story. I think that the open world is interesting. I feel it's very, very well crafted. It just, it's not perfect, and I think that a lot of people were expecting perfect, which I don't know if you can expect from a game like this, but I mean, that's what people expected, and with that long wait, it definitely did. That said, I do think that this is kind of like a fading topic sort of thing. I feel that like a lot of people either play Cyberpunk or not. I don't know how much attention Cyberpunk is still going to get from like these updates, and how many people are going to be excited about it. Because one thing which I do find very interesting when it comes to Cyberpunk is that people were very, very hyped about it, and I don't think everyone knew what it was. I mean, I didn't know entirely what it was, but I knew that it was going to be like a single player game. I knew it was going to be like a story mode game, an open world game, and I think that a lot of times when these games come out, like they can be huge like cultural hits. They can be huge things which like people look back to, like look at Mass Effect, look at Nier Automata, look at many different games which are like Witcher 3 as well, where these aren't necessarily multiplayer experiences. But that being said, is like when you play through a story mode like this, I don't think it's going to have the same sort of appeal as something like a Among Us has, or something like a FIFA or Call of Duty has, where the reason that these games are really, really exciting for a lot of people is because they can play together, and the content is being created by people playing together and like keeping it up. So I think that a lot of people will really enjoy this. I really enjoyed it. But I wonder whether, especially like after we just had like the initial release cycle, the initial like launch thing, where people like were, oh, I'm gonna get it, oh, it's gonna be so cool. I wonder whether it's gonna like remain to be something where people talk about a lot, especially when it comes to like the mainstream media sort of thing, because I feel a lot of times with these story games, like people are super hyped about it, like, oh my god, it's gonna be amazing, it's gonna be so cool, oh, I can't wait, and then they play halfway through the story because they don't have that attention span to keep on going, and like they move on. Oh my god, Fortnite, and not entirely saying that people don't tend to have the attention span to play story games. So I don't think story games are something which continues to be part of the mainstream zeitgeist, if that's the right word. So. That is, at least I apologize. And we have Xandy back again right here. Welcome back.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Just talking about Cyberpunk.
Yes, I was talking about Cyberpunk, how they the founder came out, the co-founder came out and they apologized for the release on consoles. And they also showed a roadmap, which was quite interesting. I don't know if you've seen this already, but I'll let me see.
No, I got it.
You can.
Some hot fixes, and then
So basically, what is most interesting about this is I don't know if you knew this already, but I thought that it had already released on next gen, but it had not.
So did I, yeah.
It had not released, and the thing what you see right here is we're gonna get a couple more patches at the start of the year. Then around Q2 of 2021, we're gonna get free DLCs of like story mode, and then the second half of 2021 is only then is gonna like release on next gen consoles, which I think. As I was I said before, I don't think that the bug situation or the broken situation is as bad as people made it out to be, but I think that this thing where it only actually launched on 2 old platforms where it didn't really look all that good on, and on PC, makes this thing like a little bit more important to me that it wasn't entirely optimal on these 2 platforms.
Yeah, I mean, and I also feel like from a marketing perspective, a lot of the layperson consumers that are not so tuned into gaming news and stuff, they can kind of try again with those consumers by releasing it on next gen consoles only once it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you also have people like me who are avoiding it like the plague because I want to have a good experience with it. And personally, I really do care about bugs. For a game like this, I want it to be really polished. And so I had said to you in a previous discussion at the end of last year that I was going to wait like about a year. And when are they going to try to push it as this complete thing? About a year. Like that. So I'm not surprised, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, like especially because the way that they said is like, yeah, with ray tracing and the new hardware, it looks really good, and that's why we showed it, because on this new hardware it looks really good. It felt like to me that they were intending this to be the next gen consoles and the PC primarily, and they also ported it back to the old consoles, but those are the main focus. And because I don't own any of these consoles, I didn't really look into it. I just assumed that they would have gone ahead and released it on there, but right. It's not out there. So basically, it was only PC, where if you had certain RTX cards, it would look good, but like it didn't. So it's like, yeah, I do think it's really interesting. Like the thing that I had to think about that too. Is like, yeah, you said like I'm gonna buy it about a year in, hopefully when everything has been released and everything has been fixed, I can have the pure, real good experience. And that's also when they're releasing like this second launch. They're basically doing this second launch. This is more or less, in a sense, you could call this somewhat of a beta phase, where it's not really a beta because you buy into it, but it's a phase where not all the content is in there. There's going to be patches, there's going to be very important hotfixes, but you can't already play it early. It's just that you buy the game already, but you can't already play it early. So that was kind of the Cyberpunk topic. I also touched very briefly on Nvidia releasing the the 20 series due to like supply issues. So which is interesting. But let's move on to EA losing exclusivity to Star Wars video games, which I thought was rather interesting. Not necessarily because something has been released, but I think that a lot of people can be very happy about that. Oh
Star
man.
Wars is free, baby. I don't even like Star Wars that much, and I'm happy about this. Just like there's not a good reason for it to not be open to
Hmm.
everybody else. So,
No,
hooray!
me too, man. Me too. Like I haven't really played that many Star Wars games. I played mostly the Lego Star Wars games, which actually, funny enough, aren't EA. But I'm just glad that like it's gonna be out for more people. So in an interview published on StarWars.com, Vice President of Lucas Games, Douglas Reilly, announced a new story-driven open-world Star Wars game made by Ubisoft, which is like, I
No, I'm
mean,
not gonna say anything. It's fine. They can make an open world game. It's okay.
they definitely can make an open-world game. That's you know,
They're allowed to. It's legal.
I don't. I don't think anyone doubts that they make open world games. Many
Ubisoft
open
sure
world
does
games.
games, yeah.
Maybe that's all they do, but who knows? This is interesting since 2013, EA has owned an exclusive license for making Star Wars games. These games were, I mean, there were some good ones between them, but they often weren't really favored by fans. With the prime example, of course, being Star Wars Battlefront 2, with the controversy around like the microtransactions and loot boxes. That was a giant shit show. So when this new game is set to come out, I could not find, so I don't know the date. I don't know whether that was announced or not, but I think we'll be like in the future, maybe next year or something, or the year after, maybe like years from now, just like CJ put it red in their Cyberpunk game, but it will come. There will be salvation for those of you that were waiting to buy a Star Wars game, that were begging on your knees for a Star Wars game, but could not get it over your heart to support EA. It will come around.
Yeah, I think the big thing to be excited about too, like if you think this doesn't matter that much, what you should be excited about is that even if you didn't care, EA makes all the Star Wars games, whatever, the fact that now other people can means there will be more competition,
Mm-hmm.
which means the games that are made will be better because there's competition to get them greenlit. That is important. That will improve your gaming experience, even if you think this doesn't matter. Basically, you can read this as just Star Wars games will now be X% better. I Even if EA was doing a really good job all the time, which they were not like they always. The Star Wars Squadrons was cool. They will be better just
Mm-hmm.
by proxy of having more competition. So good,
Yeah.
great.
Actually,
Again, I don't really like Star Wars. I just want better sci-fi games
yeah.
in general. I don't know.
Actually, how do you feel about competition within a what's the word? Not genre, it's brand.
Publisher.
Within like a universe, well, within a IP. I forgot the word, but basically,
Yeah.
how do you think about competition like within Star Wars games, for example? Because I'm very much for competition between different sorts of games, but like let's imagine. For the sake of simplicity, because I'm also not that familiar with Star Wars games, I'm more familiar with something like Warframe. But let's imagine that the Warframe license was freed for many companies to make use of. Would that be something which would be beneficial? Because on one hand, you could say there's competition, so people will have incentive to do better with it. But on the other hand, like one of the things where last year we talked with Drew about Star Trek Picard, which he wasn't a big fan of because all these Star Trek series, they all take like a different route, and then it's all like changing from like what the main story is also confusing and it means nothing anymore. And I can definitely see that if there would be competition within a IP or like a franchise like Warframe, like it wouldn't be guided anymore by the one single creative director that has an idea and a vision of what they want to achieve. It would then be just interpreted by many different people, and then maybe one spins it this way where Warframes can do this, and or Necramechs can do this because we think that this would be more enjoyable by people, and would that not lead to, rather than creating better games of that franchise, I think that was the word I was looking for, franchise, it would lead to kind of the exploitation of the franchise for what is the most marketable and not really like the creative direction that people might want it to take in.
Well, it's funny you say that because it's actually that exact point at the end. That's why I think it's a good thing. So I think it depends. It depends on the IP. I think
Mm-hmm.
Warframe and Star Wars are great examples of two extremely different. They're both technically intellectual properties that you could technically open up the license
Mm-hmm.
or not. But Warframe, I think it would unarguably be a bad thing
Mm-hmm.
because there's a singular vision to the game. Star Wars already doesn't have a singular vision or a coherent vision or an only good vision in all the other spin-off things. I would argue that in this conversation, it's not really helpful to think of Warframe and Star Wars as I think it's a helpful example that you brought up. but I think that it's helpful to think of Star Wars as not being something different than just an intellectual property. I would call it more like a shared universe, whereas Warframe is, excuse me, not a shared universe. And so the reason I think it's a good thing for Star Wars is that it allows different publishers to try to optimize the best use of that IP, and because it allows them the most important aspect of an IP, which is a guarantee of value for the publisher. This allows the publisher to just shut the hell up about whether the game is going to sell well, and the people can just focus on making a good game. And I think a lot of the time that doesn't happen. They're just lazy and it's a cash grab. But plenty of the time you see games that benefit from, they just didn't have to worry about how is it going to make money. It's a Star Wars game, so it'll make money because it's like the biggest franchise ever or whatever. So shut up and let us make a good game.
Yeah.
You know? And to me, Star Wars is a franchise, or a universe, I'm calling it, that goes well beyond being an IP, to the point of it doesn't really mean much, you know, like that something is a Star Wars game. We were talking about gacha as a monetization system, or a kind of a genre or umbrella term for games before. Think about Star Wars. What does a game being a Star Wars game mean? It basically doesn't. It might as well not, you know. I guess lightsabers, sort of, not even always, you know. And so I hope you see my point, where I like it much more as it just sort of allows the developer to focus on making a good game. And I also think if you do like Star Wars, as a franchise, I don't hate or like Star Wars. I don't care for one or another. I watch Star Wars things sometimes. I really don't like Disney. Let's not get into it. But the main thing is that if you do really like Star Wars as a universe, I think what this means is, people have already messed it up. There have already been bad attempts at making Star Wars things. And again, we don't need to get into it now, but I'm sure anyone who likes Star Wars will agree not all Star Wars things are good, you know? And so that's already happened. There's no preventing that. Whereas with Warframe, for example, there is some preventing that. You just don't let anybody else do it. But for Star Wars, I think this means that competition allows the developers to try different ways to utilize the IP to make something good and figure out what its strengths are a little bit more. I think we've seen pretty clearly that, like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, where you play as a third-person Jedi, is a strategy that is a pretty good one for the Star Wars IP. There's lots of material to work with. People have fun with it. It's a fantasy that people enjoy. It is a pinpointed good way to utilize the genre. And Starfighter games are also something they pinpointed as, we tried a lot of things, and this is an aspect of the genre that is good for a video game. Stuff like that. We can get perhaps more refined versions of. I think Star Wars Battlefront 2, for all its enormous problems, is pinpointing something that has long been recognized as the strength of Star Wars games, having a battlefield. There are these defined battles in set locations. The IP is good for that. And so you get a more refined and competitive approach to, this developer had this idea for how to use the IP, and then we can bounce off of that. I don't know. So those are the two things. I thought the Warframe example was really useful. I feel like Star Wars is a very different kind of IP.
No, I can see that. Like, would you say it's more akin to something like, what is it, like the Marvel universe, where you would also have many iterations of many of the familiar characters, and people are generally more used to, like, we know certain stories and we know certain battles and we know certain events which happen frequently, in the sense of, like, there are many like revisitings, like, of these events, and they might happen at one point only once in a movie, but there are 10 different games about them and all sorts of different interpretations, all sorts of different comics and different timelines around these things, where it is not so much where Warframe is kind of like this linear story sort of thing, where it's being told for one game and that should be kind of like the main canon sort of thing. It's more of a franchise where it's open to many interpretations, more about the idea of what Star Wars represents, and that can be very widely interpreted. And because of that, like, it's not really, like, you can't really, people have sullied or played around in bad ways with the Star Wars IP, but that doesn't necessarily hurt it to many people, because it's not, people are also very happy to just discard it, where it's like, oh yeah, we don't care. That's
Another way to put it is, there's no united canon, really. There is, but not a meaningful one.
No.
You know, if you have something like Warframe, you could say, but there is one interpretation of that character, and for some people it might somehow lessen it to have there be this other maybe worse or just different interpretation of that
Mhm.
character. But for like the Marvel Cinematic Universe or Star Wars, there already isn't one interpretation of those characters, and so it doesn't do much harm to add yet
Yeah.
another one. It will either suck and then you just ignore it, or it will be good and then that's great. How nice, Like if they remade the prequel movies, like
Mm.
how I don't really see
Oh.
how that could be a bad thing. You know what I mean? It might be not a good thing because maybe they'll be bad again. I think they're not very good. Maybe they won't be very good again. Or you could argue if they are good, but the point is maybe they'll be bad and then like whatever, fine. You still have the better ones that already exist. But they could be good. I just feel like it's already so muddied that what's the big deal? Might as
Yeah.
well just give it a try again.
Yeah.
Or
And
imagine if you've watched the Clone Wars cartoons, that's one of the few Star Wars things I
yeah.
really like. Imagine if those were movies, like live action movies that were actually good. Like that could be really cool. There's a lot of good story in there. So anyway, what if the prequels were actually about the prequels instead of just right? Boom, headshot. Anyway, moving along.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I also really like the thing you said where it was about that this could provide freedom for developers to actually make a good game because it's guaranteed to sell in a way because it got Star Wars to it.
Yeah.
So where they could have made a similar game which would not have been Star Wars and they would have had to cut corners, but now they don't. So I think it's going to be really like I'm really interested to see what Ubisoft comes out with and how this game will look like and what kind of precedent this sets for other Star Wars games. But it's definitely good that the monopoly is no longer with EA.
Yeah, I don't give a yuck about Star Wars, and I'm very happy to hear this.
Yeah.
So
shall we get to questions and like round it off?
Yes.
Let's do it.
I love questions.
All right. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in chat down below. If you're watching this live or if you're watching this as a repeat, put them in the comments, and then we'll get to them next week. Next week we'll be here with Drew. But like we can like just somewhere or in their Xandy and then just like answer them if you have any questions for Xandy.
I mean, if you have a question for me, and especially if it's about Warframe, I'm just gonna stream right after this, and I can answer you then if we don't get to it. So don't hesitate to ask. I'll answer you at some point.
Yeah. Or if you're watching this as a repeat, because it also goes up on YouTube, go to Twitch.tv/XandyPants, and he'll probably be live many times a week. So you can ask your question there. So
yeah, I'm gonna stream every day in February.
Ooh.
I'm gonna try for a little while. I feel like it's not gonna. I already have things I want to play during those streams. It's not like I would run out of stuff to do or get burnt out on what I'm playing. I have lots of things I want to do, and it helps me make videos. So I think it might actually save me time because a lot of the time I'm playing Warframe off stream. I just want footage for a video that I am going to make, and it's easier to get most of the time if I'm with other people because I can just say, hey, I need to be in a squad for whatever, but just leave me alone so I can do this thing and then I can get it done. And a lot of the time that saves time, if anything. Or I have an idea for a thing I need to get a clip of, and I can just ask people how I don't immediately know how I would do this. What do I do? Or maybe I'll do something and it's just wrong, and then I can include, that's not correct. It's actually this. And then that improves the video. So I'm excited to do it. I already love streaming anyway, and so doing it more and probably also saving time and probably also making more videos, even though I'm spending less time, that sounds pretty good to me.
Seems like a pretty good deal. Like honestly, like especially when it comes to like trying out things in Warframe, like trying mechanics, like figuring out how things work, it works so much better when you actually have people to play it with rather than just like trying to use it in a random squad or trying to set things up. Like streams really work well for that. I'm doing that right now with like playing for Cyberpunk. Normally I would do those in videos. I would like spend 2 or 3 hours playing and then like about 7 hours editing the video. And I've just decided like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go stream it because it's such a time saver when I just play the entire stream and just like save that as like a video. And maybe at some point, if I can get to an editor or if I can get some time to like make that thing faster, I'll edit it down again. But it's not worth it now. Like it's a big time saver.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't edit it, it's an enormous time saver.
Yeah.
But I think for me, even though I am gonna edit them, I think it still saves me time. It's just easier to get the clip,
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I mean, I was gonna try to I have enough on Patreon now that I think I could potentially hire Joey to regularly edit streams. And so we're going to see about that. He just has to figure out his, oh no.
It's so funny because like basically like if you support our Patreons, and they get to a certain level, it will just get to the point where
Joey
like we all hire Joey. It's not about hiring, and then we just all hire Joey. So if you put money towards the Patreons, then like that is money which will just end up to Joey at the end of the day.
To be fair, I still get most of it, but I will indeed be paying a not insignificant amount of the money I make overall, not just from Patreon. If he and I decide to do regular editing together, depending on his schedule. But yeah, certainly not all of it. But you are giving a non-zero amount of money to JoeyZero, so I hope that's okay. I imagine it is, but
I just love the thing where it's like, if people just wonder like why hasn't Joey uploaded in a while, like what's Joey's been busy with, like Xeno is been like you pay, so like Xeno's Patreon allows Xeno to like pay Joey to edit his videos. You're gonna ask Joey to like edit your videos, and if I get my Patreon up, I'll probably also ask Joey. It's like Joey's just like way too busy editing stuff. Poor Joey. Oh my god.
Well, just rest assured, folks. Joey is making videos, just maybe not on his channel.
Yeah,
he's working hard. He's figuring stuff out. So
I'm
excited to. Even if we don't get to edit together regularly, I'm just excited to. It's fun to make videos with him, and I know he's had a rough time of it for the past year, certainly more than I have. So at least it helps him figure out things in his own economy. His own economic situation, hopefully be better than it was for a lot of people last year. On the plus side, the country Joey and I live in has a president now. Hey! Hey! So that's nice.
Oh, on the downside, I just missed the most important moment of my life, like by a minute. No, I wish I could rewind, because it was just a minute or 2 minutes ago now. It was the 21st minute of the 21st hour of the 21st day of the 21st year of the 21st century. So you're still you still have that to go. Like it will be like in a couple of hours. It will be that time for you, 9:29 p.m. But like decide what you want to do during that most important time, because it's only, like once.
It's only 1 minute.
Yeah. So it's not like next year you can do like the 22nd like minute of the 22nd hour of the 22nd day of the 22nd century. It's not going to be the 22nd century, so it's not going to work. So important times, interesting times. I like that. Anyway, thank you so much for joining, Xandy. I think maybe you should start up your stream, and then I'll round it up, and then we'll go over to you right now.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, go check out, if you wanna check out Xandy, go over to youtube.com/XandyPants. Go to twitch.tv/XandyPants, where he's gonna be streaming every single day in February, which is a insane cool task. And
we also, for a topic for another time, we also have Witchcraft launching in February.
Ooh.
We're gonna just soak in look at that name. The spelling is important. You could get the wrong idea. If you don't have the spelling right, you could get the wrong idea. All right, anyway, I'll see you in a minute.
All right, I'll see you in a minute. All right. Witchcraft. Oh, I like that. There we go. Turn off my second camera. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching this FrameCast. I hope you enjoyed number 68. Next week we'll be back with Drew, as we've said at the start of the year. Drew will be on once every 2 weeks. And in the meantime, we're going to see whether we can find someone else to fill in the times that Drew is not there. Whether that be Xandy, whether that be someone else, we will see as we move along. I really, really enjoyed this episode. So if Xandy is watching this live right now or is watching this as a repeat, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. So again, check out. The real question is, will he temporarily change his name to Xandy Pants? Oh my God, I know. My X pronunciation is really, really bad. I say Xandy. That's what I should say. I know. But yeah. Oh man. Like again, being called out. I also call Xeno. I just call him Drew. I'll call him Drew from now on, because like that, like. But there, I can't go wrong with Drew. But anyway, if you want to check out Xandy Pants, go to youtube.com/XandyPants. TS, or Twitch with the same thing. Or go to his Patreon and support Joey by supporting Xandy first. If you want to see this live every Thursday, we're going to be back with the FrameCast on Twitch.tv/Michel Postma. If you want to see it as a repeat, it will be live tomorrow on youtube.com/postmalongames. And yeah, more than that, yeah, that's kind of it. I'm gonna see how Xandy is doing on his stream, whether we're ready to go over there. Other than that, I hope you guys have been enjoying. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, yeah, I hope you guys have been enjoying the videos. This week has been a little bit dry with videos. I'm just finished with my final tests. I've been running something for. We're working with like a research project on bots right now, so I'm finally done with my computers being on for 2 days straight, but it is back now, and we're done. We got the results, and I'm so glad. So I think Xandy is live as well, so thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a great time. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Tomorrow we'll be live with like Cyberpunk here on Twitch, but that's for if you're watching this live on Twitch. So, hey, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time, and let's get that raid. Or I should go with host, because Xandy doesn't do raid, so host Xandy Pans. There we go. Guys, enjoy. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.